What's going on, everyone? Um, Last night I had a myriad of dreams. Most of them I don't remember well, and had a lot of trouble falling asleep, continuously waking up all the time. And I had a really unusual dream in which there was a conversation that took place that I do remember, something that happens relatively rarely. Um, And this dream was not very pleasant. It was not very nice. So, just as a fair warning, it's a little bit nasty. So, I'm with my son, and we are sitting on a bench somewhere, and it was relatively dark outside. And I start noticing these squiggly, tiny little worms just moving about all over the place, just on the ground, all over. And they were really, really small, maybe a couple of centimeters in length. And it was really hard to distinguish details as of yet because it was dark, like I said. And I think we were sitting there talking or eating or something of that nature. And it looked like it was some kind of gathering, possibly, or a restaurant, but it was maybe a handful of people. I couldn't really tell what the situation was. It was almost a backyard gathering like setting, but it was abnormally dark. But there was like a stand where people were handing out food and things like that. And I started paying attention to these worms, and one of them crawled up my son's arm, and it entered into his skin behind right here, like below the elbow in the back of his arm. And it made a small, like, incision and a hole, and it entered his skin. So I take him and I go to the front where there was food being handed out or whatever it was. There's this lady who looked very not excited to talk to me whatsoever. Um, she seemed rather upset. And I tell her, hey, you have some kind of worms or some kind of creatures here. What is going on? And she was basically kind of blowing me off and implying that, you know, whatever, it is what it is, just move along now. So we come back, and these worms grew in size exponentially. And I started to make out detailed features of what they looked like. They were blue and silver in color, and were they had ridges like you would see on a regular worm. They were kind of short and stubby, and they were moving around very violently, very erratically. Something you would sort of see out of a sci-fi movie, kind of. They were very shiny silver color. I'm making a video. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it anyway. Sorry. So they really grew in size exponentially, and they're all over the ground now. So I sort of got away from there, and I ended up in a completely different scene in what looked like a chamber or some kind of, I remember these massive square boulders, like something you would see in the pyramids or in Egypt, which make perfect sense because the next thing I was seeing were hieroglyphs. And there's a man next to me, an older man, who had a light, and it wasn't a normal flashlight. He was shining some kind of, it had this like greenish orange glow to it that he was shining on the hieroglyphics. And I saw an Egyptian looking deity. I don't know, Isis, Akhenaten, one of those Egyptian gods, very tall, sitting on a throne. And it was holding something, um, a baby. I'm not sure what it was holding, but it had a really tall hat. Like I've seen hieroglyphs like this before, and what it was holding, and what this guy was doing, it was shining the light on whatever it was holding, and it was holding the brain stem. Um, and he was calling. He literally said in the dream, medulla oblongata, medulla oblongata, and he was shining it, and it was bright red against this stone, this relief that was on the stone, and it was bright red in color. And he shone the light, and everything else was normal. But this light made this brain stem really stand out. And he said, medulla oblongata. And once the worms enter the brainstem, once they enter this, the person no longer controls himself. That's what they said. That's what he said. They no longer have any control over themselves. That was the end.